Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. We begin today's video with a story about more crazy neighbors and their malicious actions. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Threaten to lie and accuse my kids of damaging your car? Okay. I was living in an apartment with just myself and my two daughters, twins. There was no assigned parking, and myself and the people who lived below me often ended up parking in spots fairly close to each other. I just purchased my first non-beater car, so I was very cautious about how I parked, not bumping into anything, parking too close to the line, etc. The neighbors, however, constantly parked right on the edge, crooked, sometimes over the line, etc. One night I came home from work and all the spots in front of the apartment we lived in were empty. I remembered this because it was an odd and kind of cool, I don't have to squeeze in or park a mile away moment. The next morning, me and my girls leave to go grocery shopping. My neighbor's car is parked next to ours and there's a very large noticeable scratch and dent on its door. It honestly looked like someone had intentionally slammed their door into it repeatedly. We get home and are carrying our groceries up the stairs. It takes a few trips. After the last trip, I'm in the doorway and one of my daughters comes racing up behind me. Mom, there's a lady asking, other daughter's name, a bunch of questions even though she said she can't talk to her. I'm big on the don't talk to strangers thing. So I head down and ask what I can do for her, and the conversation basically goes as follows. M equals me, N equals neighbor, and BF equals neighbor's boyfriend/husband. Me. Can I help you? N. I think your kid may have hit my car with your car door. Maybe she didn't, but she refuses to answer me, so she seems guilty. Me. Well, first of all, my daughter doesn't know you, and she does not have to answer you. In fact, I'm going to ask you not to speak to my daughters unless I'm present or I give you permission. Secondly, my daughters are 10. I don't allow them to get into my car without me. I can assure you they haven't hit your car. In fact, I always stress to them to be careful when opening the door because people often park close. When do you think this happened? N. Last night. And you're not with your kid every time they open a door. No one is. It could have happened when they were getting something out of it. Me. Well, since I live on the third floor, I actually don't let my kids go get things out of the car without me. I'm just not comfortable being unable to get them quickly if something were to happen. And last night we parked before you got home and remained parked all night until we left this morning for groceries. The dent was already there when we left, so it wasn't my car that hit yours. Sorry. N. Your car is white and the paint left on my door is white. It's obviously yours. Your kids did this. Me. I point out that there isn't a single scuff on any of my doors, including the inside, that would have hit. I also open my door and show her that where my door would hit her car door is above where her damage was. I have an SUV and she had a small, low-to-the-ground sedan. So even if you don't believe me that my kids aren't allowed in my car unsupervised, it couldn't have been my car that did this damage. N. Begins getting very angry and loud at this point. I don't care. You're the only one around here with kids. I see them almost hit other cars all the time, and you park too close to other cars. You need to start parking further away. If it happens again, I'll get your insurance involved. Me. Okay, we're done here. Do what you think you need to do. I start to head upstairs, and her boyfriend comes out and blocks my way. NBF. What'd she say? N. Yelling angrily. She's trying to say it wasn't them. She's trying to lie and say her kids don't get in the car without her. NBF. That's bullcrap. We've seen them almost hit lots of cars. Me. You need to move. I've explained to her that it couldn't have been my car. You need to get out of my way now and let me pass. NBF. Nah, it was yours. The paint's white. You got kids. We've seen them hit other cars. Me. You literally just said you've seen them almost hit other cars. Now you're saying you've seen them actually hit cars. Neither is true. At this point, I simply move to the next stairwell over and start heading up. N, screaming at me, No, you need to take responsibility for what your kids do. If you're not going to pay me, I need your insurance information now. Me, you don't need and are not getting my insurance information because I wasn't involved in any kind of accident or contact with your vehicle. You really need to stop screaming at me. We both pay a lot to live here, as do all of our neighbors. No one needs to hear irate screaming in the parking lot. N, we saw your kids do it. We're going to call the cops, and we're going to tell everyone here how your kids hit their cars too. Anyone who has a scratch is going to know to come to you. At this point, I turned the voice record feature on my phone. Me. That was the first time you said you saw my kids do it. You're literally making things up now. You can't go around door to door here. It's against community rules and the lease that everyone has to abide by. And you can't just go around lying because you want someone to fix your car. N. You're going to take responsibility or we'll tell everyone you hit their cars. I shut the door and called the police myself to explain the situation because after they lied and changed their story to say they actually saw my kids hit their car, I was worried they would make a report. The apartment complex manager wasn't there on weekends, but I told them on the following Monday. They assured me that they couldn't do what they threatened and told me not to worry about it and said they'd give them a verbal warning. The police came and I played the recordings for them and showed them how my car had no damage and my door didn't even line up with their damage. The neighbors went inside and shut their door when they saw the police pull up. The police basically told me I had nothing to worry about and it sounded like they were trying to get someone to cover their damage since they didn't know who did it and were trying to use intimidation to get me to cave. They knocked on the neighbor's door and explained to them that they can't physically stop me from trying to get into my apartment or harass me and that they were going to give me a report because it sounded like they may be trying to commit insurance fraud. They attempted to tell the officers that they saw my kids hit their car, but they weren't having any of it. After that, I started taking pictures and video of my car and theirs every time I parked. A couple times they came out yelling that I'm not allowed to film their car without permission. I just blew that off. That got really tedious, but it was clear they weren't letting go of their grudge against me and my kids, so I invested in a cheap security camera. I put it in the window facing the parking lot below. I would skim it really fast overnight, or if I was parked during the day for several hours, I just sped it up really fast looking for when their car parked, etc. One day I pulled up and they were out on their porch. I decided to walk upstairs and they made snarky comments like, "Oh, you're not going to get out and video everything?" I actually wanted them to know that my car was still being filmed so they knew they couldn't make crap up, so I said in the friendliest, non-sarcastic tone I could muster, "Nope, don't need to. I have a camera in my window doing it for me." This was a mistake because they started flipping out, demanding to know where the camera catches and ranting that I can't film them on their porch. The camera didn't catch their porch, and demanding that I show them where all was being filmed and that if I didn't take it down, they'd have me arrested, blah, blah, blah. I mentioned that they'd already been warned by the apartment complex manager to stop contacting me and that I really didn't want to have to report them, but if they continued to harass me, I would. Fast forward a few months and a large service van backs into their parked car and drives off. It caused significant damage. My camera caught it all. They actually knocked on my door asking if it had, and honestly, had they been polite, I probably would have helped them out, but they basically just immediately started demanding that I check my camera, and that if I wouldn't, it was probably because it was me, blah, blah, blah. I let them know that I would be deleting the footage and not to contact me again. They tried to say that if I did it was a crime since it was evidence of a crime, and they were going to call the cops on me, blah, blah. Nothing else ever happened, but it's one of the few times in my life I've ever not helped someone when I was in a position to, and I don't feel bad at all. Your neighbors sound like the kind of people who end up on cops? I die laughing every time I see incidents like this. They yell and scream and lie, but still don't get their way, so now the cop isn't doing his job properly, etc. And our next story. My brother wants me to hand him a career. So my brother and I have a rare gene mutation that caused us to be born with cataracts. We're both almost completely blind. Other than our shared genes, we're pretty different people. When I was a teenager, we used to argue a lot about pretty much everything just because we had different outlooks on life. He was always really hard on me and critical of pretty much everything I did, from the boys I dated to the work choices I made. And only a few years ago did it finally hit me that he was probably just jealous of me in a lot of ways. I moved abroad in 2011 and we don't talk much since I don't really feel like I have much to say to him. I had to call him a few weeks ago and he started asking about my work. The conversation went something like this. For reference, I give lectures on game accessibility for the blind and visually impaired, and my brother has always done odd jobs and gig work in various fields. Me. While the spring is busy, I have several trips abroad coming up and I've applied to speak at a few different conferences. Him. Wow, you get paid for that? Me. Well, usually the conference will pay for hotels and transport for me and my guide, and work will just pay my normal salary. Sometimes work will pay for transport too. It's marketing for the company. Him. So what about me? Me. Huh? Him. Well, why haven't you mentioned that you have a brother? Me. I don't understand. Him. Well, you could have hooked me up with some speaking gigs. Me. Dumbfounded. Well, if you want to do this kind of work, I guess you could find a local game studio and offer to do accessibility consultation for free to build your portfolio. But you'd have to do some research about current games and current tools. Him. Yeah, I don't really play that many games anymore. Me. Oh, well, then how co- Him. You could have easily given some people my contact information, you know. Me. Sorry. I tried to get off the phone as soon as possible after that. I was also reminded why I don't talk to my family often. Years of constant criticism and bullcrap, and now I'm supposed to share my hard-earned career with them? Jeez. Hey, can you put your reputation on the line for me so I can get money doing a job I'm absolutely not qualified for and have no experience with? I certainly won't do incredibly poorly, and in doing so damage your reputation and probably your career in an incredibly niche market. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.